Hello and welcome to the morning after show. We're here. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are excited to break down some sports for you guys. Thank you for spending your mornings with us. Jared, I probably shouldn't be as excited as I am for coming off the top of the show, but I'm excited to talk to you, buddy. Even if your team just did absolutely smack my Niners, it's all right. Jared, how are you doing? And I'm sure you had a good night last night, so I won't even ask if you had a good night.
It was a very exciting weekend of sports. I'll just say that. Yeah, no, I mean, talking. We'll talk plenty about the game last night. Just wanted to again thank everybody for tuning in this morning, and also for being a part of the community all weekend long. 'Cause this weekend, honestly, was one of the best weekends in terms of just excitement around the sports community and the amount of sports that we had involved.
Yeah, it was a super fun weekend outside of my Niners losing last night, which, like you said, we'll talk about plenty. But it was a great weekend for NFL. I know you ended up winning on the FanDuel main slate and won pretty well. I know that I ended up winning a few slates, and Saturday was absolutely amazing. Saturday was a great set of sports for us. Ended up cashing college football, ended up cashing MLB and cashing UFC pretty well. So was a great weekend, just like we promised it to be. I'm pretty sure on Friday I said that we're gonna smash this weekend, and we did exactly that, Jared. We did exactly what we needed to do. How was your weekend, personal life wise? And anything exciting happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm able to every now and then. Saturdays are sort of my off day, sort of I should say, and I'm able to get some time in. So I was able to do a couple things with some friends. A buddy had graduated from a master's program, so I was able to help congratulate him. So that was fun, and then
Nice.
watched uh, watched the Badgers get completely imploded by Notre Dame, which we talked about over the weekend. That was
Yep.
fun too. And then yeah, watched the UFC fights, and yeah, then the rest of the weekend was straight football. So I'm coming into this thing on Monday, and pretty much every Monday with basically no knowledge of anything else.
That's awesome. That's great because we're going to talk about plenty today. Hockey fan says good morning. How you doing, man? Desert Zombie says good morning. Go Friars says good morning. Teddy Two Stack says good morning. Good morning, y'all. Hope you're having a great morning. Mill says heck of a game last night. At the end of the day, I know I'm wearing this Packers hat because you guys ended up winning, but at the end of the day, it was a really good game. I've been enjoying a lot of the primetime games.
Every single one has been really good,
Yeah.
and maybe the only one that wasn't as good was the Panthers Texans game, but even that was close in the first half. So the NFL has done a very good job with these primetime games so far, and I think once again they're going to kill it tonight, and we'll talk about that game here in a little bit.
Yeah, we will. Go Friars says Saturday sweep. Yes, sir. That's exactly what it was. CC's dad said that was awesome. Matt LaFleur said he was cautiously optimistic when he got the ball. I was even more certain than he was. I was even more certain than you were, probably, CC's dad, because I was telling Jared last night, as soon as we scored and left 37 seconds on the clock, I was like, yeah, it's over. They're gonna get in field goal range and win this one. There's no chance. Anyway, Brian1453 says good morning. Good morning. Jarhead says, old man on the stream. Well, we are happy to have you here. Happy to have everyone here. Jared, anything else you want to touch on before we move in to talk about some week 3 football?
No, let's go ahead and get it started.
Let's do it. Let's get started and talk about some week 3 football. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes first and talk about this Chiefs team. Ended up losing to the Chargers yesterday. Kind of became turnover city. We talked about it while we were live on the air for 30 to lock, or I guess it was technically 30 after lock because we didn't get on for 30 to lock. But we saw that this team was very turnover happy. I think they had 3 turnovers in the first quarter. It's certainly going to cause problems for the rest of your team. They don't have a very good defense. Like, are you hitting the panic button quite yet on this Chiefs team, or are we saying settle down, everyone? They'll get better as time goes along.
I think that they'll be just fine. And they always have one of these games each year. The only problem was that they had, back-to-back losses for what probably the first time since 2018 or so. So I'm not really concerned about it. People are going to overreact to this one. The Chargers just actually played well and didn't shoot themselves in the foot as many times as they normally do. They still did a lot, but they didn't do it as much as they normally do. The Chiefs made some huge mistakes and that they don't usually do that. So it's weird to see them make those kind of things down the stretch. I even thought that, like, I didn't count the game over at all in overtime. I didn't even count it out. I thought that they left too much time on the clock for Mahomes at the end of the game in the first place. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not worried about it from a Chiefs standpoint. The only thing that I see that people are going to use to defend that would be that there's now two teams in the division that are undefeated. But honestly, those two teams have played pretty outside of the Raiders beating the Ravens. They haven't really played anybody up to the potential of their teams. So the Chiefs moving forward, their schedule is interesting. They have quite a few roadblocks up and coming here, but they should be able to take control of them. They have the Eagles, the Bills, Washington, the Titans, Giants, and the Packers in the next six opponents. So out of the gate, I mean, it's you would expect them to probably win some of these games, but Josh, they've had a tough schedule moving forward in just the first 6 weeks here. It gets a little bit easier down the stretch. A lot of divisional opponents, so they'll probably be able to rack up some wins. But maybe we see one of these AFC West teams like we called early on in the year a couple weeks ago. One of these AFC West teams could make that second wild card spot.
It's insane because like you just named off those opponents, right? And I legitimately think they could go 3-3 during that stretch. So like if they go 3-3 during that stretch, then like you're talking about a team that's going to have a losing record coming into the halfway point. Um, I don't know. Like I see some things that I'm concerned about with Mahomes and with this Chiefs team. Not Mahomes. Mahomes is just fine. And as long as Mahomes and Kelsey and Hill stay healthy, this offense will be just fine. The big problem for me is the defense is just not good at this point. The run defense isn't good. The secondary is suspect. And they have to face a full team full of killers throughout their AFC West divisional rivalries. I mean, the Broncos look a hell of a lot better this season. The Raiders look a hell of a lot better this season. We just saw the Chargers are able to beat them. So like,
Right.
where does it end? Like, I don't know. It's a really really tough division to be in. I mean, I'm not gonna. It's not as tough as like the NL West or anything, but like it's still a really tough division to be in. So I don't know. I'm pretty close. If we had the panic button right in front of me, I'm like this. I'm raising up to hit it right now, and I just need one more bad thing to see this team. And I was watching something last night, and it's like if they lose like one of Kelsey, Hill, or Mahomes to an injury, that's it. I don't even know if this team makes the playoffs if that type of thing happens.
I mean, they're built around those three guys for sure. And the reason that the other guys do well on the team is because of the guys like Kelsey and Hill that take away so much from the defense and garner so much attention. Mahomes can only do so much, and he can be the superhero and superstar. But when it comes to like a team against like the Bills, I don't know if they'll be able to keep up if they lose one of those stars. Clyde Edwards-Helaire proved everybody wrong, proved me wrong. I'll take the L on that one. Came out and had the best game of his career as a Chief so far, and I did not expect that, especially against the Chargers yesterday. So props to him. But again, he's still not where I think that he needs to be in terms of where the Chiefs expected him to be. That running back one that they've always wanted.
Going to be interesting to see moving forward what happens with Clyde and maybe if they end up using him more. I mean, you got to find a way to make this offense not so centric on those three guys. And if Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be the answer, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the answer. All right, let's talk about Justin Fields, who had his first start as a NFL QB, and like the stream said, at least you're having a better day than Justin Fields, right? Because Justin Fields did not have a good day yesterday. Let's read off this stat line. I happen to pull it up in front of me. Went 6 for 20, had 68 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, didn't throw an interception too. That's the one thing that he did do well. At least he didn't give up anything really. He did have 9 sacks though against 9 sacks for 67 yards. He, like you said, he had one less yard passing, or he had one less yard when it came to his sacks compared to his passing yards. He had more sacks than he did have completions. Ooh. I mean, like, I already knew the field start would go bad. I already wasn't sold on him as a QB. I feel like everyone's getting on the bandwagon now of what is Justin Fields and is he really this savior for Chicago? I want to hear your thoughts. Again, same type of scenario. Is this a spot where we're hitting the panic button, or are we just, it needs to be a wait and see approach for Justin Fields?
No, not panicking yet. We saw that the Bears just I don't know if it's coaching to blame. I don't know if it's organizational decisions. I don't know if it's Andy Dalton's injury. but they should not have started him in this week
Yeah.
against the Browns. It's a terrible, terrible matchup. It's honestly their worst matchup of the first 7 weeks of the season outside of the Rams. And they could have picked a better spot to do it. They could have done it last week, which they did against the Bengals. And then they could have easily just said, I understand that Dalton was injured, so they didn't have a choice probably. But I would have wished that they would have maybe put him in there against the Lions next week. They still have Nick Foles on the bench. Why didn't they use him?
Seriously.
I don't know. I don't know, but maybe they wanted to give him the experience, but that was a bad spot to try to instill some confidence in your young quarterback. We saw this coming, Josh, the whole time, the whole week last week. It was a terrible spot. I didn't like it. Hated the whole thing, and the Browns just proved that they are who we thought they were on the defensive line.
Yeah, with that whole front seven, right? I mean, that whole front seven is
Yep.
just so dominant. And I mean, I expected Fields to really struggle in this start. We've talked about it a ton this past week, how Fields was going to struggle. I just didn't expect it to look that bad, man. Like, I did
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
expect him to look that bad. So maybe I'm not hitting the panic button yet either. But this is a take that I've had for quite a while. I really don't believe in Fields that much. I know everyone was on him and everyone was like, oh, why? How did he fall so far in the draft? There's plenty of reasons why he did fall in the draft, in my opinion. I think that as an NFL QB, he's just not that good at going through his reads, which is always going to be an issue for him. And it's part of the reason why you're going to see him get sacked so much at the NFL level, because he's waiting in the pocket for so long and he's trying to make those reads. He's trying to adjust. He's not good enough. He's not doing it right yet so far. So it's going to be interesting to see. The problem for me is that like they have the Lions next week, right? That's your chance to give Fields some, you know,
Yeah.
some experience
Maybe your
that's
one
good for
chance.
him. Give him some confidence finally. But then listen to this. They go up against the Raiders, tough matchup. Packers, tough matchup. Bucks, tough matchup. 49ers, tough matchup. Steelers, good defensive line again, and then you have the Ravens again, and then you get to face off against the Lions. So you almost have 6 straight weeks where you have to face off against tough defenses. Yeah, maybe Andy Dalton comes back and he gets back to being the starting QB, but it's going to be interesting to see if he's not the starting QB. What the hell is the Chicago team going to do? Because I have no clue.
Uh, they are not going to be good this year, and they might not even be good next year. But Justin Fields I think he's going to be above average eventually. And I don't want to put a time frame on that, but I'm not going to say it's this year or next year. So
Yeah.
2023 is the earliest that I think that this team turns things around.
It's gonna be quite a while. All right, Justin Tucker, an amazing kick, and it set record, or it didn't set records. It was 66 yarder, but it was really impressive, and it was the game winner for this Ravens team. But I want to talk less about Tucker and talk more about the Ravens. This is the Lions team that the 49ers pretty much decimated until the end of the game. The Packers pretty much decimated as a whole. Are we worried that the Ravens had some troubles with their offense in this spot?
Oh, they definitely had some struggles. You can blame a lot of that on Marquise Brown for not catching two would-be touchdowns. That's a whole other story for DFS. We'll talk about that in 2 hours. Uh, but yeah, Marquise Brown really rough yesterday. Mark Andrews looked okay. Lamar at times, so he still struggled with his accuracy at times. But when he was making throws and they were completed, those throws were really good. So it's not quite all the way there yet. They're still lacking wide receiver depth, and the running game looked interesting. Like he was under a lot of pressure yesterday. I think it's just a lot to do with the fact that they don't have anybody on their offensive line anymore, and they don't have anybody on defense at all. Like their depth is just completely washed, and it's only week 3. So yes, they should be happy that they've come out of the wins that they have. They probably should be 3-0 if they would have won against the Raiders, but that's a different story. So the fact that they were able to pull the Chiefs game out and then still somehow kind of struggle in this spot is definitely a little suspect. So I don't really think that they showed up and they thought that maybe, hey, we could probably squeak this one out against the Lions, no big deal. But as soon as I saw, I don't know, me being a Packers fan and having a lot of friends that are Lions fans in the Midwest, I knew exactly what was going to happen as soon as they got the lead, as soon as Detroit got the lead, because it was obviously they were only up by a point with a little bit of time left remaining. I'm surprised that Jackson was able to get the ball to where it needed to be.
Oh.
But yeah, if you're in a dome going up against Justin Tucker, there's a really good chance that he's going to make a 70-yard field goal.
Yeah, GG's, baby. You're basically done at that point. There's no chance. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to feel about that offense. Like you said, it's suspect, right? Because you go from 1 week to throwing up 35 points on the Chiefs, or 30, whatever it was, 36, 35, and then you go the next week to only getting 19 against the Lions. Like, come on,
Yep.
man. Like, I don't know what that speaks to. I don't know whether it speaks to maybe this Ravens team is looking ahead right now because you have some pretty tough matchups coming up in the near future. Does it mean that the Chiefs defense is honestly just that bad right now? I don't know. I think there's plenty of takeaways that
Good.
you can take from the whole situation. At the end of the day, Justin Tucker, amazing kick, amazing way to get them the win. Pretty incredible. And I know Mason Crosby was talking about on the not on the broadcast, but before the game, he was talking about how he was just in awe of the Tucker kick, and he wanted to be
Yep.
put in that same situation. He was put in that same situation last night, and he's the reason that I'm wearing this Packers hat as a Niners fan because your Packers ended up winning. It was an amazing game, and I can't emphasize that enough. I think my Niners put up a lot. They had a lot of heart throughout that game because for the whole first half, we were clearly just outmatched in every regard. But our rookie corner stepped up against Devontae Adams towards the end of the game. The offense really stepped up. I think Jimmy G was an idiot for throwing that ball away and fumbling the ball and then acting like he didn't fumble the ball. It was kind of a mess, but it was a good mess. I'm happy what I saw from the Niners. I want to hear the positives that you took away from your Packers.
Positives are that they are not afraid of running the ball. Now, this is
Yeah.
the second straight game where on prime time we've seen that defenses have tried to play too high safety on Rodgers and are forcing him to not throw the ball to Adams or deep balls to MVS and just run the ball and be patient and let that gap open up eventually, like it did to MVS later, or that was early in the game. So once they made that adjustment, they were only able to really run the ball. So that was encouraging to see, just because Aaron Jones has kind of been hit or miss in terms of consistency with just being able to run I don't know, first and second down. They usually have been passing a lot early in the game, so that's a takeaway. Defensive takeaway, solid in the first half, better against the Niners than against the Lions in the first half, which was weird. But again, inconsistency. It still seems like they made the wrong hire at defensive coordinator. The Packers did. So I'm we'll see what that means down the stretch. But I think that for you, positives are Sermon looked okay. I mean, like I would
Okay is what I want.
expect him to be where he was after a concussion last week. I'm kind of surprised that he got cleared in the first place, but is what it is. Um, Trey Lance, obviously the big story. What you guys should take away: George Kittle's came into the fold. Brandon Ayuk came into the fold. So yeah, it just shows it should be good for you guys that the Niners now have weapons that they can rely on when Debo Samuel gets shut down.
Yeah, I think that positives for you guys, and the main positive I took away is that offensive line is the real deal. It seems like it was a
Yeah.
lot more dangerous than I thought it would be because you guys just dominated throughout the game, and I thought our defensive line would have pressure on you all night long, and it kind of was the case. We had a few pressured spots, but not nearly as many as I was expecting. So that offensive line for the Packers seems like the real deal. It seems like it's going to be a really good offensive line. My main takeaway is that Jimmy G is probably going to be the quarterback throughout the rest of the season. Look, I know a ton of people are in the chat saying we want Trey, and when Trey Lance takes over, that team will be a different field away. He's not. Trey Lance isn't taking over this year. They'll continue to use him in those short yardage
Yep.
situations. But Jimmy did not look bad last night. He had that bad fumble. I think it's honestly just a mental miscue. I wouldn't be too worried about it. The pick that he threw was honestly, I don't want to
Wasn't a
say
bad
not.
throw.
I don't want to say it's not his fault because it technically is, but like Jared Alexander's just an animal, man. Like I don't know how he got back there in enough time to pick
Yep.
that ball off
Yep.
from the position he was on the field. But it was absolutely an insane pick. And like you said, not a bad throw. If Jair Alexander wasn't an absolutely amazing corner, that would have been completed for a 30-yard pass probably most of the time, rather than
Yep.
Jair Alexander coming underneath and getting it. So, I don't know. I'm not really like I was mad last night when we lost. I'm not mad right now about the loss. You're going to lose some games during the season, and this is certainly you guys are one of the tougher opponents we faced so far. So I'm not that upset about it. It sucks that we lost, but I'm not that upset.
Yeah, so this is already a very, very hot topic around the Twitter space right now and social media. They a lot of people said that that was a bad throw. I believe even Collinsworth said it was an interesting decision, but at the time, like what Jimmy saw on the field, there was at least a 15-yard gap between Jair and where that ball was going to head to,
Yeah.
and he beat his defender. He was open, and he even saw the ball literally almost went through his hands. It was that close. So I don't think it was a bad throw. I just think it was a really good play by a really good corner.
Exactly. 100%. Jimmy didn't look horrible last night. And if Jimmy's not going to look horrible against the Packers defense, like a secondary that's, I mean, you guys were a little injured last night. I don't know if you can call him one of the best, but it was a really good Packers defense at the end of the day. I'm okay with Jimmy keeping the starting job, and he kind of proved himself. Just getting to that
Yeah.
touchdown in the last few seconds was important. Now he left too much time on the clock. I don't know. I think Juszczyk is to blame for that. He should have went down. He should have stopped fighting for the end zone. I guess that's
Mhm.
kind of what you do. I mean, but you had 3 timeouts. Like you should have known that. Hey, I can get down on the 1 yard line, and we can just take this thing all
Yep.
the way to the end of this. But it was just a bad move, man. It reminded me of. Do you remember last year when
Gurley.
like Todd Gurley fell into the end zone on
Yep.
accident? That's exactly
Yep.
what it reminded me of, and I was like, "That's 37 seconds is way too much time. They're gonna have plenty of time." Devontae Adams is probably pissed off after we took his head off, and yeah, you guys are probably gonna win. So I wasn't surprised to see you guys get in the field goal range. I think it was to be expected with how our defense is playing, but hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not really that upset with my Niners. I think they did a great job last night.
Yeah, and back to the Trey Lance point. You guys have a really tough schedule now for the next 6, 7 weeks, and it kind of just I think that they look at the way the rest of the QBs are playing around the league, and they're like, do we really want to make that move here? I don't know. It doesn't really seem like the best thing for our team with the playoff aspirations that we have. A lot of the teams that are rolling the rookie QBs out there are either rebuilding or on the verge of rebuilding. So your situation is a little bit different. I know people are calling for it. I'm sure that you have friends that are fans of the team that are calling for it, and they're probably asking you why they haven't made that change yet. Because this team is already good, and
Yeah,
they can be good. And now, can you imagine rolling Lance out for these opponents? Let me tell you who they are: the
yeah,
Seahawks next week,
uh huh.
the Cardinals the week after,
Mm-hmm.
the Colts the week after, the Bears the week after, Cardinals, Rams. Do you think that Trey Lance is going to be able to succeed in any of those spots?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Like I just think it's the same thing as we just saw with Fields. Like why throw him out against a tough opponent? It's the same thing we
Right.
saw with Tua last year when they threw him out against the
Yep.
Rams. It was like why are you doing this to him? Like you were just absolutely ruining his mindset when it comes to this. Like roll him out against the Jags if you want because I see we have them on the schedule. I think that's a fine opponent to run him out against. I think the Jags would be a really easy opponent to run him out against. But like, don't run him out against like the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks aren't that great right now, or the Cardinals, or the Colts. Like, just really tough matchups. So it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see what exactly happens throughout the rest of the season with the Lance and Jimmy situation. I feel like it's something we're going to talk about every week. But right now, I'm definitely on the Jimmy G side of things. Jimmy should be the
Yep.
guy in San Fran.
Speaking of Jacksonville, I know you hinted at them and who you guys are going to be playing eventually. There actually was a breaking news trade about 34 minutes, like 30, 40 minutes ago.
Uh-huh.
The Panthers are trading uh, Dan Arnold for CJ Henderson from the Jaguars and a fifth rounder. So Dan Arnold goes to Jacksonville, CJ Henderson goes to Carolina to bolster that secondary and that defense that's
Okay.
looking very, very good.
What
So
a
I think that Carolina,
fleece.
yeah, stole that trade. Yeah.
Yeah, what a dude. CJ Henderson's an animal. What the? That is an absolute fleece. That's insane. Poor Dan Arnold, though, bro. I've been on the Dan Arnold train and him succeeding with the Panthers. He's
Yep.
not going to succeed with the. Well, maybe he does do well with the Jags. I don't know. Trevor
He
does
good.
like. Trevor
Shaughnessy's
does like
out.
his. Yeah, O'Shaughnessy's out. Trevor likes his tight end. So, wow, that's crazy. All right, we can talk about the Jags even more now. I cannot. They're really selling the season now after that CJ Henderson
Yeah, they
trade.
are.
But
Yeah.
what they ended up losing yesterday. Trevor Lawrence looked really not pretty. I guess I don't know. He just hasn't looked good. Like I think we kind of called it at the beginning of the year, right, Jared? That Trevor Lawrence was going to struggle at least at the beginning of the year. because of this offense and because of the OC and everything else. And we're exactly right, right? This team is going to struggle.
Yeah, they're not going to be good. They're in classic rebuild mode right now, and Urban Meyer's making some really bad calls in terms of how he views the college game versus how the pro game goes. And you saw that yesterday a few times. The personnel decisions they've been making to keep guys that shouldn't be in spots where they are, aka Carlos Hyde, is going to be there. I don't know. It's just a really bad look. So they're going to be bad for a little bit here. It's going to take a few years for them to possibly turn the corner, and I think that Lawrence can do it. He's shown that he can. He has the skill set to do it, and I don't know. I'm just not as far on him as most people are.
Yeah, he currently has the most interceptions in the NFL. Yikes, that's not good. He has 7 of them. He has more interceptions currently than he has touchdowns, which is
Yep,
also not a very good number. And his QBR is 3rd worst in the NFL out of all starting
right behind,
QBs.
even
So
behind Zach Wilson.
I actually don't know. I'd have to look it up. But it doesn't look good for Trevor Lawrence right now, man. And it's just that offense is very one dimensional. The fact that Urban Meyer is making them use Carlos Hyde makes it even more one dimensional. Like it's just not a very good offensive game plan. D. Ramify said Meyer was a great college coach, but NFL, nah. I completely agree. Thursday night is going to be disgusting this weekend, he said, but I'm assuming this week. What's Thursday night football? I don't even know what's on tap this week.
Yeah, Thursday night football is, by the way, Fields is the worst, and Zach Wilson's the second worst, and then it's Lawrence.
All the
Um,
rookie QBs, baby.
yep, and then it's Matt Ryan. Anyway,
Yeah.
the Thursday night game is. I don't think it's going to be boring. Who said that? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. It's Jaguars and Bengals.
Dude, I think that sounds like a good time. I don't know
Sounds like a
what you're.
barn. It sounds like a barn burner.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of offense, which means a good time. It means I get to see more Jamar Chase, who's been an absolute animal. Can we talk about Jamar Chase? I know everyone was so
Yeah.
off of him so far this
So
season, or to start this season out. Especially, yeah, we could both raise our hands there.
yeah,
But like the fact that he has scored a touchdown every week. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday. The guy looks good. The guy looks dangerous at the NFL level, and I mean, he could be an absolute beast for his whole career if he continues this little stretch.
yeah. I will say I was wrong. Maybe
Yeah.
he figured it out. Maybe that connection's realer than we think it is. And I mean, that's probably the biggest part, right?
Yeah.
With T. Higgins goes down, now it's Tyler Boyd and it's Jamar Chase, and they both looked great. They both scored touchdowns yesterday, uh, and Chase scored 2 of them. This could be a really exciting season for the Bengals and how that plays out, because this offense, Josh, if they take that next step and Joe Burrow evolves into, I think he's below average right now. If he evolves into the above average over the next 2 or 3 seasons, this could be a really special group of offensive players. They're all really young, and people always forget that Joe Mixon is extremely young in the league still. Joe Mixon is only 25 years old, so people forget about that for how long he's played in the league. And now you're getting a bunch of wide receivers that are extremely young as well and promising. So once T. Higgins comes back in, all they really need to focus on is getting a tight end, and they're solid. Obviously, getting their offensive line back together too.
I was about to say, imagine if this team actually focuses on the offensive line. Imagine what this offense could be one of the more dangerous offenses in the NFL. Jamar Chase looks like the real deal. I'm excited for it because I did have him in dynasty leagues, and I was freaking out a little bit when he said the comment. But maybe the comment was all smoke and mirrors, man. Maybe it was just I need to temper expectations a little bit, and then I need to go out here and absolutely ball out. And that's what he's doing. He's balling out, man. This Bengals team looks good. They're 2-1 right now. They looked really good yesterday. Even the defense looked good yesterday. I guess it's not hard to look good against that Steelers team when they're without their main weapon in Deontay Johnson. Any surprise about another rookie on the other side, Najee Harris getting 14 catches? Is he just going to be
Yep.
the new Deontay Johnson when Deontay Johnson is out?
Yeah, I mean he can be the. This is exactly what we were looking for him the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, right.
We knew that he was going to be the check down king. That's how they used Le'Veon Bell. It also helps that the game script went the completely opposite way for the Steelers, and Deontay Johnson was out, so they're going to pepper guys and with their offensive line. Ben didn't have much time to throw, and when he did throw, and it wasn't to the other team, it was going to Najee Harris or Chase Claypool. So yeah, Chase Claypool, Josh, turned into a little bit of Deontay Johnson as well. Ran a lot of short routes, but both of those guys, man, yeah, like I said, it only was a matter of time before Najee was able to step into this role, and I'm glad that we were actually right about that.
Yeah, so am I. It's gonna be fun to watch the Najee train. Anything else NFL wise that you want to talk about? This, I mean, we're gonna talk about NFL tomorrow too. So if you want to save some stuff for tomorrow, then you can because we still have a lot to talk about that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, we can save some of it for tomorrow. I will say that we're going to have a ton to talk about for Tuesday after this Monday night game between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Also, we'll be back for Jason Garrett Tuesday, where the Giants had their only chance to really win a regular season game and they still blew it.
Oh, I cannot wait for Jason Garrett Tuesday. It's a new thing, guys. I hope you know that it's going to be every Tuesday. We talk a little bit about why Jason Garrett is so bad at his job. All right, let's move on to the next subject. We get to talk about some college football that happened over the weekend. We're not going to go too in depth on college football just because there are so many things we need to talk about on this stream. But main thing I want to talk about, Clemson, just disappointing once again, right? This team just seems like they cannot figure out what they're going to do with their offense as a whole, and then they end up losing this week to North Carolina or NC State. And NC State looks good. I'm a big fan of NC State just because they I don't like UNC and they're better than Duke, so I feel like I'm
Yep.
obligated to root for them a little bit. But it was a good win for NC State. Are the Tigers out of the AP uh, rankings now?
I I will say that they'll probably give him a pass this week. I don't know why. Like I don't. They're going to continue to give him a pass. We'll talk about the AP 25, but just a preview for that, guys. They're the only team in the top 25 that's lost 2 games.
Yeah,
So
they are now
that first,
25, by the way.
oh, they are okay.
Yeah, so they're
I
right
must have
on the
had,
edge.
I must have the wrong one pulled up because I'm seeing 19, unless that was
Oh,
outdated.
maybe I'm wrong. Nope, I'm right.
Nope.
AP top 25. They're 15 or they're 25th now.
Okay, let me find the new one and I will
I
check
think
that
you're
out.
looking at the coaches poll if they're 19th.
Okay, okay. Well, still, like the coaches are giving them too much credit. So
Yeah, you
uh,
think?
they've only put up more than 20 points twice, and one of them was this one, but in overtime too. So, yeah, that was interesting, and it's kind of strange that they are not as clutch as they used to be. I don't know if that's a personnel thing or just that they are inexperienced now. That all of their guys are starting to leave to go to the NFL. So
Yeah.
we kind of called this before. They're going to bounce back, obviously, because they have pretty decent matchups here. But some of these schedules are some of these the rest of the schedules kind of tough. They still have Wake Forest. They still have some teams that could shock things. Lots of road games in weird spots. So I don't know. I don't think Clemson makes the top 10 this season again. Maybe they don't even make the top 15.
They might not even make the top 25. I really don't know what I expect for this team, especially because they lost Shipley yesterday or on Saturday. So like you lose your top running back, the guy that was getting you most of
Yep.
your points, and I just don't know, man. I cannot. I've watched a lot of DJ so far this season. I watched a lot of him last season when Lawrence got injured and they had to go to DJ for. I think Lawrence got COVID or something, but they had to go to
Yep.
DJ for a few games. And I know that Debo thought that this was the next guy. Like he talked about early on in DJ's career how it was the next Dante Cunningham, and it's not the truth. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
He's not a very good QB. He can get the checkdowns right, but outside of that, like he's just not an extremely good quarterback. So I'm pretty much off of this Clemson team at this point. I don't expect them to be a factor in the rankings. Here's a question: who's having a worse season, Trevor Lawrence or Clemson?
Oh, Clemson.
Yeah, I would say Clemson, man. This is getting really bad for Clemson right now. So I'd slightly lean Clemson. Let's talk about some other games that went on during the weekend. I know you don't want to talk about this one, but I want to talk about it because I got the bet right. Notre Dame won over Wisconsin. We're underdogs. I cannot believe that Notre Dame were underdogs in that game, but they were underdogs, and they ended up smacking your Wisconsin Badgers. So, any thoughts on that game? Where do you think, or actually, we don't have to think about where the Badgers fell to. I can tell you where the Badgers fell to, and I
Out.
think they're out of the top 25.
Yeah, they're out. Notre Dame was clearly the better team. I'm not sure why. Bet Online thought that they were going to come in, and maybe they thought that, or they forgot that this game was on a neutral site, like we talked
Yeah.
about at Soldier Field. The Badgers just don't have a quarterback. They don't have and this is the first year in the last decade plus, maybe even last 20 years, where they just don't have that running back. And it's been Taylor, it's been Monte Ball, it's been Melvin Gordon. It was even like Ron Dane in the past. Like they've always had that NFL caliber type running back, and they just don't have that this year. So will they have it? I think that they will down the stretch, like in the coming years, but this year they're just not going to. So they're going to struggle this year, and it is what it is. Notre Dame looked okay. I know that they probably wish that they had more in Jack Cohn, but obviously their backup came in and he was able to take care of things. Their defense looked really good. Through the Badgers threw 2 pick-sixes to close the game out in the fourth quarter. Josh, Notre Dame scored 31 points in the fourth quarter alone.
Yeah, it was an insane fourth quarter for Notre Dame. Um, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. I don't really like either one of these teams when it comes to DFS terms. So like I don't pay too much attention to them. But it is interesting to see. I think that when it comes to sports betting, just like the line was completely wrong in my
It
opinion.
was
Like
wrong.
I cannot believe, and like more wrong than I think I've seen a line be in quite some time. So anyway, let's talk about some of the upsets that happened this weekend. Number 16 Arkansas won over number 7 Texas A&M. I'm sure Sean's
Yep.
happy about that. Baylor was able to win over 14th ranked Iowa State. Hold on, where's the other ones? Oklahoma State was able to win against number 25 Kansas State, and
Yep.
Georgia Tech was able to win against UNC, the number 21 ranked team. What's the one that impressed you the most or surprised you the most?
I honestly probably I give Tech a lot of credit, Georgia Tech, but I think that Arkansas is the team that can take that next step, and this poll certainly shows that people are starting to take them seriously now, as they're, from what I'm seeing, in the top 8.
Yeah, I'm just absolutely floored by North Carolina losing. Like you have back-to-back games where Sam Howell looks like the truth, looks like an absolute animal, and of course I play Sam Howell again, and I think Sam Howell just doesn't want to perform for me, man. I think that he knows how much I personally hate UNC, and he's like, all right, anytime that Josh plays me in his DFS lineup, I am just gonna absolutely shit the bed. And that's what he did. He shit the bed. He looked absolutely awful, just like he did in week 1 when he looked absolutely awful. So it blows my mind about how bad that guy can look sometimes, and then how great he can look in other games because the guy can throw 19 passes and have like 350 yards. So like
Yep.
he's an absolute animal in some spots, and then just in other spots just falls flat. And that's exactly what he did, and that's what this Carolina team is going to rely on all season. It's going to be on him not falling flat. That's what he did this past Saturday. That's why Georgia Tech won. All right. Anything else when it comes to the college football realm? And if not, we have a little video to show you guys for some action about some UFC.
No, the last thing I'll say is that I am pumped that somebody, or four people voted Georgia as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's watch a little video. I don't know if you saw this, Jared, but we had some bad news for John Jones. He ended up getting arrested after his Hall
He
of
did.
Fame induction, and this is what Dana White said about John Jones when he heard about the news.
It's hard to bring this guy to Las Vegas for any reason. The city is not good for John Jones. And here we are again.
What was your reaction when you first got the news that there had been another incident?
It's not even shocking anymore. It's when we bring him here, it's almost expected. You know, you can't even get him in Las Vegas for less than 12 hours to induct him into the Hall of Fame. It's a problem. You know, this guy's got a lot of demons, man. A lot of demons.
All right, so we hear what Dana White has to say about the whole John Jones situation. Just bad news bears, man. Like I could not believe he got in trouble again. And I saw it and I felt the same way that Dana did. I was like, I can't say I'm surprised necessarily, right? Like it was bound to happen almost with him in Las Vegas, and just here we go again.
Yeah, it is kind of a a recurring cycle here. And now I'm sure that Dana is like, I would love to be able to, put a fight together for him, but I just can't. Like
Yeah.
his hands are tied at this point. Like it's kind of all Jones. Yeah, he said this, obviously the misdemeanor violence charge happened in Las Vegas, which obviously is where most of the things in the UFC take place. So
Yeah.
I know that Dana was quoted saying the city's just not good for him, and that is what it is. So not even shocking. When we bring him here, it's almost expected. He can't even get him to Las Vegas for less than 12 hours and induct him into the Hall of Fame. This guy's got a lot of demons. Yeah, it's crazy. It's I can't say I'm surprised either at this point.
Almost expected. How are you going to bring John Jones out for like a main event if he actually is going to fight at the heavyweight division? You're going to have it in Vegas most likely. What are you going to do in that case? Like, is he going to get in trouble the night before and then screw over your main event? I don't know, man. I just think it's super interesting. Anyway, let's stop
Yep.
talking about the John Jones stuff. Let's start talking about UFC 266 because I thought it was an absolute blast. I thought this was one of the best pay-per-views we've seen all year.
Yep.
All the hype that was leading up to it completely paid off, whether it be through the prelims, which were incredible, where you saw Semmelsberger get that 6 or like 10-second knockout. I know we nailed that call, or I nailed that call when it came to UFC, but like so much good stuff came from the prelims, and then we had the main card, and I was like, all right, main card probably disappoints me a little bit because these prelims were just way too good. Everything we saw was absolutely amazing. And then this main card completely paid off. So I want to go fight by fight. I know you watched the last 3 fights, so I'm going to be able to do this. First fight, let's talk about Diaz versus Lawler. An amazing fight for as long as it lasted. These two were absolutely brawling it out, and I love that Diaz looks so old. Like he was just like throwing these punches, and like it
Yep.
looked slow almost, but like he would
Looked
just
really
throw
slow.
them. He was just throwing them in flurries, man, and I think that's what kept getting to Lawler. So like Diaz was fun to watch. I wasn't surprised that Lawler won. Wasn't surprised that Diaz gave out because he looked like that gas tank was going out at the end there. Anything surprise you from that fight?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, those two guys are. I mean, I shouldn't say Nick too, but Nate definitely looked like he was struggling a lot. So I don't know. I mean, struggling is one thing. Maybe he's just it just looks slow motion. That's kind of what it looked like to
Yeah.
me. Because we always, I don't know, they mean a lot to the city of Milwaukee, so we always kind of back them. But at the same time, I think Lawler was obviously the better fighter, and obviously proved that.
Yeah, it was very clear. And even Diaz was saying, not getting. John asked, or Jake Hughes asked Josh, would you call Diaz not getting up quitting? I wouldn't call it quitting necessarily. I mean, the guy was getting pieced up. I think that it was probably the smart thing for him to do at the end of the day. Here's my thing with Diaz, right? Like, I'm curious who put him in. Like, who scheduled this for him? He said at the end of the fight that he wasn't even sure who scheduled it for him or how he got here. He said it might have been his management or something, but like just poor decision making at the end of the day. Like he should not have been in a UFC fight. That is where going to be where I stand. This guy was not UFC ready. And it showed. I mean, I know he sells tickets, right? At the end of the day, it was
Yep,
probably
he does.
it was a move to sell the pay-per-views, which is perfectly fine. But like it didn't seem like the right spot for him. He didn't seem good, and it is what it is. It is I think that you're not going to see him again probably under the UFC belt.
Probably not. And that I don't know. I definitely agree with that though. I think it wasn't a move that they were like, you know what, maybe we'll sneak him in there and see if he can pull that thing out to get more ticket sales. Not like they need it anymore because I think the rest of the
Yeah,
card was stacked anyway. But like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Just for me, Diaz just wasn't. He was probably the only guy out of the 10 main card fighters that just didn't fit there.
yeah, for sure. I completely agree in that regard. All right, Shevchenko and Murphy. What an interesting fight. I mean, we all knew Shevchenko was going to win. She did what was expected, but Daniel Cormier had said something important during the Semmelsberger fight. Sometimes doing what you're expected to do is the hardest thing to do. So, congratulations to Shevchenko for defending the belt. She's one of the more dominant fighters in the division and one of the more dominant champions in the UFC. What surprised you here? I think that Jake Hughes is saying it perfectly. The corner work of Murphy was really interesting at the end of the day. I don't know where their head was at for that fight.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the first thing that stands out on paper is that Lauren Murphy was able to make it through 4 rounds without getting tapped. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing that stands out to me. So I give her credit for that as like obviously the biggest underdog on the card. So I don't know. For me, I respect that enough, and obviously everybody knows that Shevchenko has a 99% chance to win. So I mean, for me, I'm not surprised about the outcome, but I would just like to give credit to where credit's due.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Murphy was in there. She's been calling for this title fight for such a long time. Um, I mean, like, good job on surviving, but like, you got to throw caution to the wind, man. I completely agree. The
Yeah.
commentating team was talking about how like, is she trying to survive here or is she trying to win this fight? Because if you're trying to win this
Sure.
fight, you got to go out there and try something, man. You gotta go balls to the wall here and just hope that something sticks. But she wasn't able to. So at the end of the day, like, so trying to survive with Shevchenko is just not gonna work for you. You can't just stand in there for those 25 minutes and hope that you're going to win a decision. You got to go up there and try something crazy. And I just don't think Murphy had the goods to try something crazy there. So congratulations, Shevchenko. Congratulations to Murray for finally getting her spot. I mean, I don't want to take it away from her, but this is what was expected to happen. So I'm not all that surprised. All right, last thing I want to talk about. Man, I'm just so I've been excited to talk about this spot all weekend, Jared. Volk versus Ortega was absolutely insane. Was one of the best pay-per-view card fights I've ever seen. Was one of the best championship fights I've ever seen. Was the third round was one of the best rounds I've ever seen. It was an absolutely insane fight. If you have the chance, go watch it back. It was a crazy fight. What surprised you from both sides, from Volk's side and Ortega's side?
Yeah, the biggest thing that surprised me, and I agree with you too, like almost all those points. You can put it up there with so many other moments that we've seen this year and the previous years. But the thing that surprised me the most was that it just went to the final bell.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing I'm surprised most about. It actually went 5 rounds, and I thought that it was going to be over in the third, just like a lot of people did. So I give a lot of credit to Ortega for being able to step up and actually make this thing a good fight. Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many times now, and I don't think you touched about this on air, but you touched about it in our conversations that sometimes these main events just seem to just underperform, and this one definitely did not.
No, did not even come close to underperforming. I mean, like I said, that third round. So for those who weren't able to watch the fight, Ortega, I forget how Volk came to the ground, but Volk ended up going to the ground, and Ortega locked up this nasty guillotine choke, which you have your arms like this around the fighter's head or around the fighter's neck, and he was just yanking. Like, he used all of his arm strength there in that moment. And he even said afterwards that he was like, I really thought I had it. Like, I heard him wheezing, I heard him gargling, like, I thought I had it. But props to Volk, man. He got out of that one and then even got it put into another submission, a really tight triangle choke, and was still able to get out of it. Like, Volk is just he went through adversity and came out on top. And he's already gone through adversity through the two Holloway fights and came out on top. So, like, I just applauds to Volk. I'm excited to see who he gets matched up with next. I hope it's not for Holloway number 3, because I just don't think anyone. Well, I mean, I know people want to see it, but I'd rather see him fight someone new. But Ortega, man, like, another thing that just surprised me was that he looked better in the 5th round than any other round that he was in. Like, the 5th round was probably his best round, and he was knocking around Volk at the end there. I was getting scared because I had a good chunk of money on Volk, so like I was like, shit, is he gonna knock him out in the 5th round? What an insane story that would be, to fail throughout those first 4 and then end up winning in the 5th. But Volk was able to come out on top. I thought the judging was a little suspect. I know one judge gave him a 50-44. Nah, I can't buy that. That makes no sense. I would love to see the scorecards. I can go look them up on Twitter, but I would love to see the scorecards to see which round Volk got a 10-8 in, because I don't think there was a single round where he deserved a 10-8, and I don't think he won every single round. But yeah, it was a super good fight card, man. At the end of the day, that's all I asked for out of UFC 266,
Yeah.
and it was an absolute blast.
Yeah, what do you think that if you were to replay it again and already knowing the outcome, what do you think that Ortega would have had to do better to be able to win?
That's a 10 out of 10 question there. I think you bring him to the ground a little bit earlier if you can to try to land one of those submissions. I feel like maybe if things were dry, like if both fighters were dry and not all sweaty, then he would have been had an easier time locking up a submission. But I don't know. I think Volk's honestly just better in every category at this point. Like I think that his ground game is elite when it comes to his wrestling and his ground and pound. I think his striking is so good with those kicks. And I don't know. I think Ortega probably needed to focus less on the boxing and more on getting to that submission. But it was hard to get it to that submission, man. I mean, it took him a long time to get to that submission. And at the point that he did get to that submission, if it failed, he knew that he would get pieced up on the ground. And that's exactly what happened. He got pieced up on the ground.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I try to look at this like, what could this person, because I'm sure that they do that to themselves too after they start watching film when they start training again. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that there was much that Ortega could have done better, just because Volk is definitely, he outmatched him in every single way.
Volk's a champ. Volk's the champ's champ, man. Like this guy is going to be the featherweight champ for quite some time, unless he has to fight like Holloway next, which I think would be really shitty to give him Holloway before he's able to get
Yeah.
another defense. But unless he has to fight Holloway or something, and Holloway just brings it in the third match, like this guy is going to be. I personally think he's on like that Usman level of he could absolutely dominate the division, and it's going to be fun to watch, man. I think that I don't know when he plans on lining up next. Probably going to be a while because he took so much damage in that fight. But it's going to be fun to see him line up in 2022. All right, anything else for the UFC? And if not, we're going to move on and talk about some baseball.
No, let's do it.
Everyone's saying Holloway has to beat Yair first. Yeah, Holloway does have to beat Yair first, so I guess that's coming up. I hope Yair wins, honestly. I am a huge Holloway fan just because I love his boxing so much, but I hope Yair wins that way so we have Volk versus Yair because I think that would be a really fun fight. Anyway, let's move on, talk about some baseball. Had a lot of fun stuff happen over the weekend. Your Brewers clinched. My Yankees ended up having a huge sweep in Fenway. What do you want to talk about first?
Yeah. So finally, after what seemed like the longest 2-week stretch of the Cardinals winning 15, 16 games in a row,
No.
the Brewers finally were like they sat at the magic number of 3 or 4 for like a week and a half. So
Yeah.
they did that. Now they came out and they swept. OG's not on the show, so I could say GG's to Nick. Beat him 3 games in a row.
There you go.
But yeah, the Brewers are back in the playoffs. It's the third time ever in their history that they've been NL Central champs. So I know that doesn't mean a lot to anybody, but it means a lot to me. So that's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Hey, that's all that matters because I'm sure it doesn't mean a lot to anybody but my Yankees, baby. I'm so happy because we talked coming into the weekend. It was the same talk as that Rangers series. Like, if they don't win these games, they will
Yep.
not be in the playoffs. And they come through with a sweep. But look, I already see people saying, skip the Yankees talk. Don't talk about the Yankees. But I'm talking about the Yankees, man. I think that it's absolutely incredible to see what this team is able to do over the weekend. I thought the pitching looked amazing. I thought the hitting looked incredible. Did you know, Jared, that the Red Sox had 9 runs over this whole entire series? Giancarlo Stanton had 10 runs over the whole entire series. Stanton beat the whole team by himself. No one else had to score a thing, and Stanton would have won the game for the Yankees. Would have won each game for the Yankees too. So like Stanton, incredible way to come through last night, especially with that big home run. Fatty McGee said Stanton should have been out. Said Jay Cruz says boo this man. Yeah, whatever. I don't care, man. I'm on cloud 9 about my Yankees. If I wasn't wearing this hat, it would have been the Yankees hat this morning, and probably the Yankees jersey too. I just found the Judge jersey last night, so like I'm all over this team. You're gonna hear me talk about them a ton. I think they're in a prime spot to be set up to end up getting the top wild card spot. But we're going to have to see, man. I mean, there's still a lot of baseball left. They have to face off against the Rays and the Blue Jays this week. It's the last week of baseball, though. So, like, it's do or die
Yep.
time for this wild card race. It's going to be a blast. I'm so excited.
Yep. So obviously, another huge series for you guys against the Blue Jays. I'm going to be that guy and say don't count out the Mariners yet. They're 8-10 or 8-2 in their last 10. I know that they're behind by 3 games, 2 games to the Red Sox, but I don't know, man. Could be interesting, maybe. And again, they have to face the A's for 3 games and the Angels for 3 games. So I think this one comes down to literally next Sunday. before we know anything for this wild card race.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Yankees have to face off against Toronto on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday we start our series with the Rays. So it's going to be a tough spot. I know it's definitely going to be a tough spot. All these teams right now are hot outside of Toronto being 5-5. Like you have the Yankees at 7-3 winning their last 6. You have the Boston Red Sox at 7-3. They lost their last 3, but their last 10 looks pretty good. Toronto's last 10 is 5-5. Seattle's last 10 is the best out of the bunch at 8-2, like you said. And then you have the Athletics at 6-4. I mean, it's advantageous to get paired up against that Angels team because you should be able to win 2 out of 3, if not 3 out of 3. And so yeah, I mean, maybe don't count out the Mariners quite yet, but I think the Yankees are in a good spot, man. I think, again, like we talk about always, it's about getting hot at the right time. There's not a better time to win 6 straight games than when the Yankees just did over the past week. CC's dad said Jays are ready to beat up some Yankees. We'll see, man. I think it's going to be an amazing series. I think every series for the AL East is going to be amazing outside of the Red Sox who get the Orioles 3 times. All right, anything else MLB-wise? If not, we are going to talk a little bit about our friends over at BetOnline.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is what you touched on. The Red Sox do get the Orioles for 3 games, Tuesday through Thursday, and then they finish the season off on the road against the Washington Nationals. So Nationals could play spoiler, or it could be the exact opposite.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's talk about BetOnline. Let's talk about our lock of the day. We got to get our underdog mentality going on too. So, underdog mentality for this Cowboys and Eagles game, whether it be a prop, whether it be whatever you want it to be, Jared. What's a plus money play that you can get behind for the Cowboys and Eagles?
Yeah, plus money, baby. Plus 3.5 Philly. I'm nailing it right now.
There you go. Plus 3.5 Philly. You'll love to see it. I can get behind it. Let me see something. I want to see props wise, passing. Actually, yeah, bro. Give me plus 300 for Jalen Hurts. Plus 303 for Jalen Hurts at plus
I like that.
168. I could totally get behind that 100%. I think this Philly team's
What's the
Oh, go ahead.
what's the rushing yard prop for Hurts?
Rushing yards. Ooh, that's a lot of yards. That's a lot of yards to get there.
No, you're right. That's a lot.
I kind of like the Sanders plus or 53 plus yards too, honestly. Let's see receiving yards really quickly. Cooper, yeah, not really that advantageous. CeeDee Lamb, not really that advantageous. Yeah, I don't see anything that I really like here. I'll stick with the Hurts plus 300 plus yards for plus money. Chris the Fed said, any reason to worry about teams out of the playoffs runs now? Do you think they'll still perform or have they cashed out? I think most teams like playing the spoiler role to these against these other teams. So I think you still see them perform.
Yeah, me too. I think it's interesting. We'll touch on that for DFS a lot over the course of the next week in the podcasts, but there will be some. They're going to start. It's similar to basketball, right? Where the teams that are out of it are going to use the guys that they want to see for upcoming seasons and put them in real life situations. So, and then like John said, perfect example of this. The Brewers are already conservative enough as pitching, with tendencies for coaching. Craig Counsell likes to pull his starters early anyway, but now they don't necessarily have to put their starters more than 5 innings. Get them throwing, get them loose, get them still conditioned, and get them ready for what seems to be a pretty good playoff run here.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you to our sponsors over at BetOnline. I know that I used them a ton this weekend for props, for straight up bets. I actually had a pretty good weekend overall. I know last weekend, Jared, we kind of both lost our asses, but this weekend ended up being a lot better. Make sure to go check them out over at betonline.ag. They have everything that you need from a sports betting perspective, whether it be the best odds on their sports book or it be props like this, or you can even do some other stuff. I know they have poker, they have the casino, they have a ton of things that you can bet on. My personal favorite is always the live betting. I know I took advantage of the live betting a ton on Saturday for the fights. I love live betting UFC. I think there's nothing better than live betting UFC. So make sure to take advantage of betonline.ag. They truly are a class act, especially when it comes to their approach of taking the player before themselves. They always prioritize you guys, whether it be through, advantageous odds like the odds boosters that we've seen over the past few weeks or over the past week or so, or it be the promotions that they run, because I know they run promotions almost every week. So just make sure to go check out Bet Online. Like Mill said in the chat, best in the biz by far. All right, we are done with the show, Jared. It was a great show per usual. Plenty to talk about today. Anything else that you want to talk about before we get out of here, man?
No, juicy weekend. We have another awesome night tonight, and we'll be back in about 2 hours. Or no, sorry, Mondays are different. So we'll be back in a couple hours
Yeah.
here in the afternoon for the strong side that starts at 3 o'clock Central or Eastern Standard Time.
I completely forgot that today was different. You're right. We don't go live in 2 hours. We go live much later. So yeah, make sure to come hang out with us for the NFL stream. I'm sure it's going to be a good time. I'm sure we'll give some stuff away as well. And thank you guys for hanging out with us this morning. We greatly appreciate it. And I have some exciting news. I've been teasing it for like the past week, but Jared finally gave me my Christmas present, and I'm super hyped up for it. Expect a revamp very soon for the morning after show. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.